I feel, as I've said repeatedly, that the government is not doing anything, and also the Japanese media have not really reported what is occurring in the areas in which I live. And therefore, I'm making an appeal to anyone in the world, any media organization, anyone who will report on matters as they are. I believe that people throughout the world have much more information about what is happening in Tomioka and the cities around us, rather than the people in Japan. It is my hope, therefore, that people throughout the world who know of our situation will come together and help us try to restore Tomioka to its former state. And this is something that I wish not only for Tomioka, but for other communities in this 20-kilometer evacuation zone. Of course, the progress is very slow. We don't have a great deal of power, but I believe that persons such as myself and other like-minded people are moving step by step toward the realization of our dream.
私は生まれ育った自分の富岡町が大好きです。だから私はもう逃げることはありません。何でもかんでもやってとにかく昔が町になるようにしたいのです。それにはもう世界の皆さんの本当に少しでもいいですからたくさんの人に応援してもらえれば必ず元に戻ると思って信じています。
I was born and raised in Tomioka. I love this city. I have absolutely no intention of ever fleeing this city. I will do everything in my power to try to restore Tomioka to its former state. I know that many people throughout the world have extended their willingness to help, and I believe that if many people raise their voices, then I believe with all my might, with all my heart, that Tomioka will be able to be restored to its former state.
東京電力と政府は本当に嘘つきですよ。
The government and Tepco are liars.
東京電力がもう例えば今はみんな全部停止してるけど将来電気エネルギーが足りないっつってまだ福島の原子力発電所を動かして我々が帰ったってまだ同じもう事故を考えたらもう帰っても恐怖で帰れないしやっぱりもう東京電力はもうなくなってもらいたい。
For example, Tepco at present, they are shutting down their nuclear reactors, but I know what their plan is. They plan eventually to say that we're lacking electricity, we have an electricity shortage problem, and therefore we're going to have to restart the Fukushima nuclear power plant as well. If that happens, then the people, even if decontamination, other processes proceed and people are able to return to these areas, they will be faced with the fear, the terror of another similar accident occurring. So in reality, they would not be able to return to their homes. So my desire, my wish, truly, is that Tepco would disappear from the face of the earth.
東京電力の人はもう血も涙もありませんから。
The people who work for Tepco have neither tears nor blood. In other words, they're not human.
ああいう人がもうああいうでっかいもう事故を起こすのはもう前にも私はもういつかはやるって感じはしてた。
I felt from the very beginning, even before this accident occurred, that the people at Tepco were a kind of people whom one could not, the interpreter is adding some words, could not quite trust. In other words, I felt that it would only be a matter of time before this kind of serious accident eventually occurred.
東電は今まで何回も放射能を出してる。テレビのニュースでやれば必ず最後に人体に影響はありません。
The reason for my saying this is that in the past, Tepco has had many radiation leakage accidents occur. Whenever these news reports are presented on television, however, the ending phrase always is the amount of radiation leaked is not enough to adversely affect the human body.
もうテレビのコマーシャルはいつも安心安全。だからもう東電の人間は全部洗脳されてる。もう俺もあの中で話聞いた時に東電の社員に当時あんたはそこで何やってたって言ったらもう第一原発で送電の仕事をしてた。そしたらもう危ないから中に入れって言われた時に建物の中に入ったって。そしたらものすごい音したっていうのはドカーン。そしたらもうみんな口々にミサイル飛んできたって。何考えてるか分かんない会社だ。自分の会社は絶対爆発しないと思ってるんだよ。ミサイル飛んできたって言うんだ。俺もそれ聞いた時びっくりした。
Because television commercials are always being broadcast that said nuclear power plants are absolutely safe. You can always feel assured, peace of mind, because we're taking all measures necessary. I believe that as a result of all of this publicity, even the Tepco staff themselves, or people who work for Tepco, were brainwashed into feeling that they were in a very, very safe environment. In fact, I spoke with some people who worked at Tepco at the time of the accident, and they said, one person was saying that he was working outside, suddenly there were these broadcasts that they must immediately seek shelter inside a building, so they did. And when they were inside a building, they heard this huge explosion outside, and I asked what did they think when they heard this explosion, and they said their first thought was that they were under a missile attack. In other words, it never even occurred to them that they were working in such a dangerous facility that this dangerous facility might actually produce an explosion. They thought it was an outside reason.
もう今までに歴史を振り返れば、アメリカもスリーマイル島で爆発、チェルノブイリも爆発、日本も爆発、3回もやってるのに世界はまだ懲りない。まだどっかで起こる。自分の国は大丈夫だと思ったら絶対になる。
Already, if we look back in history, we've seen 3 different explosions, nuclear power plant explosions, one in the United States, 3 Mile Island, one in Chernobyl, and now in Japan. And still, the world has not given up its hope that there will be no further explosions. Everyone thinks that the nuclear power plants in their country are safe. That's not, I don't believe that.
だからこれから世界はやっぱり原子力エネルギーに頼らないで、また別の新たなエネルギーを開発して、そうしないとまだどっかで同じような悲惨な目に遭う。
Therefore, I believe very, very strongly that the world needs to get away from a dependence on nuclear energy. It must develop new sources of energy. Otherwise, a tragedy such as we faced will happen somewhere again in the world.
だから東京電力は潰れてなくなればいいと思う。
So I strongly feel that Tepco should collapse as a company and disappear.
本当は昨日東京電力に行ってきた。
Actually, I visited Tepco yesterday.
話した。
And I spoke with them.
なんで保証進まない。
I said, why are negotiations and conversations not proceeding?
そしたら彼らは言った。この分は東京電力で保証しろ。東京電力はこっちは政府でやってくれ。まだ言えばこれは東京電力の分だ。東京電力これは政府の分だ。いつまでたっても前に進まない。だから言ったんだ。どっちが潰れないかダメだべって。だから政府潰すわけにいかないから東電潰れろって言ったの。もう法でもしないともう保証問題は進まない。東電と政府は同じくらい力あるから。
The response basically was that we need to figure out who is going to bear the burden of paying compensation, the Tepco or the government. In other words, there was this continuous negotiation where Tepco was asked to bear part of this compensation, and they say, no, it's the responsibility of the government, and the government responds by saying, no, Tepco should bear that burden. In other words, I believe that nothing will change unless one of them collapses. And since we cannot have the government collapse, I think the natural solution is to have Tepco collapse. Because until Tepco collapses, we will not make any further progress on the compensation and negotiations.
本当は友達と2人で行ったんですけど、2人で本気になって怒った。
Actually, I did not go by myself to Tepco. I went with a friend, and both of us truly lost our tempers when we spoke with the people at Tepco.
ただ謝るだけ。すみません、すみません。
But basically, Tepco's response is simply to bow and apologize, saying "sumimasen," which is "we are terribly sorry."
多分そういうマニュアル作ってる。
But it was hard to take them seriously. I think felt they were just following a manual.
だから絶対前に進まない。
In other words, I see absolutely no progress going forward. There's no forward momentum.
で、多分最後には裁判になる。
And I think what will happen at the end is we will have a court case.
20年、30年かかる。
And court cases, as you know, in Japan are very long. They may take 20, 30 years.
私たちは死んでる。
We will all be dead by then.
いつもこれが政府のやり方だから、多分最終的にはもう日本の歴史を見てもこういう問題は裁判で大体の人が死んでから結果が出る。
This is the way the government always handles these difficult issues. If you look back in history, you see that when there were similar incidents, the government has basically resorted to fighting it out in the courts, and the courts come with a final decision so many years later that most of the people involved in the case, most of the victims, are already dead by